day and welcome to Alena Media TV. We are broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. I am Elsa Abraham, and in this episode we are bringing you African news. Here is your headlines. Biden cancels a travel ban on Nigeria, Eritrea, Sudan, and other countries. Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia's cut-off camps in dire need of aid. And in our last story, why the sudden shift in Sudan's position in the Nile Dam disaster. Let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll get our news in detail. Welcome back from that break. Now, the U.S. President Joe Biden, on his first day in office, issued some executive orders undoing some of former President Donald Trump's policies. Among the 17 executive orders and presidential action Biden signed on Wednesday were the order to end travel restrictions and immigration from countries including Nigeria, Eritrea, Yemen, Sudan, and others. There is no time to waste, Biden said. Before signing the executive orders in the White House, these are just all starting points, he added. The American Civil Liberties Union, a non-profit civil rights organization, applauded the move, calling the travel policy a cruel Muslim ban that targeted Africans. However, the ban was changed in part due to legal challenges and included some non-majority Muslim nations. President Biden described the policy as discriminatory and an affront to the country's values. The president has also sent a bill to Congress to overhaul the country's immigration system. His team said earlier the legislation aims to provide pathways to U.S. citizenship for undocumented people, address the causes of migration, and speed up the reunification of families after children were separated from parents at the U.S. border with Mexico. In our next story for today, Eritrea refugees in Ethiopia's cut-off camps in dire need of aid. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, on Tuesday revealed it had found Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia in desperate need of supplies and services after the Tigray conflict forced humanitarian workers to withdraw from the region. The statement, quoting the UNHCR spokesperson Baba Balok, said that the UN agency led the first humanitarian mission to Mai Aini and Adi Harush refugee camps to conduct a needs assessment. The assessment found that refugees were cut off from any supplies and services for more than 2 months. Wells all were not functional without fuel for the pumps, leaving refugees to use water from a nearby creek for washing, cooking, and drinking, resulting in diarrhea-like illnesses, the statement said. According to the UN Refugee Agency, the only assistance the refugees received November 4th, the start of the conflict, was a one-time food distribution conducted by the UN World Food Programme, the WFP. Almost a month ago, it noted that plans are underway for a second distribution, no access to camps. The UNHCR also noted that it has not had any access to the Shimelba and the Hitsas refugee camps, further north in Tigray since November. According to the UNHCR, some 5,000 Eritrean refugees have made their way to the town of Shire and are living in dire conditions, many sleeping in an open field in the outskirts of the town with no water and no food. Ethiopia, on the other hand, has been home to nearly 200,000 Eritrean refugees, most of whom are mainly sheltered in Tigray and Afar regional states, as well as the capital Addis Ababa. According to recent figures from the Ethiopian government, weeks of fighting in northern Ethiopia's Tigray regional state between the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the Ethiopian Defense Force has left hundreds of people dead, thousands displaced, and millions in urgent need of humanitarian assistance, the media reported. In our last story for today, why the sudden shift in Sudan's position in Nile Dam Desert. Sudan has recently shifted its position in the negotiations on Addis Ababa's controversial dam on the Nile River, as Khartoum grows more concerned about the dam's impact on its own dams and agriculture. Khartoum has recently escalated its position on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam crisis, with Sudanese officials rejecting the Ethiopian position on the desert. On January 10th, Sudanese Minister of Foreign Affairs Omar Kamal al-Din announced that Sudan expressed objections with Ethiopia and the African Union because of Addis Ababa's resolve to continue filling the JERD without reaching an agreement with Sudan and Egypt. He said that his country will not continue with this vicious cycle of negotiations on the dam. Dean's statement came as the AU resumed tripartite negotiations on the JERD on January 10th, before they collapsed amid Sudan's call for a change in the negotiations mechanism and a greater role of AU experts. Ibrahim Nasser, a Sudanese researcher specializing in international affairs, told Al Monitor that the essence of the Sudanese-Ethiopian dispute lies in Sudan's insistence on a binding legal document for all parties to the crisis regarding potential disputes or disagreement over the dam. Nasser said that Sudan escalated its stance in the face of the stalling and obstinacy of Ethiopia toward the downstream communities. Egypt and Sudan, besides Ethiopia, rejects any legal document claiming it violates the principle of sovereignty, which is not true, he added. According to Nasser, Sudan realized that Ethiopia wants to gain more time and drown the other parties in sporadic and ineffective negotiations. Ethiopia's ignorance of Sudan's repeated calls for a binding agreement and for not taking unilateral decisions to fill the dam prompted Khartoum to escalate its stance against Addis Ababa to expose the latter's scheme of gaining time and talking unilateral decisions in the JERD issue to the world, he added. Sudanese journalist Meshab al-Hadi said that the stalled JERD negotiations stem from Ethiopia's refusal to reach binding international agreements for all parties. Ethiopia's rejection of the U.S. brokered in February 2020 to solve the point of contention constitute clear proof of its disrespect of international treaties and documents. This step alarmed Sudan and pushed it to pause and revisit its past stances. He said if Ethiopia does not take action to break the current status quo, it will face international isolation. Sudan is likely to escalate its stance further by resorting to the UN Security Council to anticipate any controversial step that Ethiopia might take. Hadi added that the border disputes between Sudan and Ethiopia is now tightly linked to the JERD issue, in a desperate attempt from Ethiopia to threaten with war in exchange for the dam as a show of power. Sudan strongly refuses this because the disputed area is purely Sudanese and no truce or negotiations are needed. Amid the stalled JERD negotiations, the Sovereignty Council of Sudan arranged a series of visits in early January to Eritrea and South Sudan. On January 14th, a high-level Sudanese convoy also visited Cairo to meet with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Egyptian officials, mainly the chief of the Egyptian General Intelligence and the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Salah Halima, former assistant to the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs told the media over the phone that the timing of the Sudanese visit to Cairo is key as it comes following the failure of the recent negotiations round and stalemate of the Jerd issue. The visit also underlines the importance of talks between the two countries, not just at the level of bilateral relations, but also in the Jerd issue and the border conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan. Halima said that Ethiopia is violating all customs and international treaties, adding that Sudan is escalating its stance amid its concerns over the Jerd's impact on its own dams and cities and on its agricultural and animal wealth. For Egypt, however, the matter is one of the life and death, he said. Halima explained that Egypt and Sudan are demanding their legitimate rights under international treaties and their historical rights in the Nile waters. He expected Sudan and Egypt to resort to the Security Council to solve the Jerd crisis and prevent any risk threatening their peoples. Wael Mahmoud, a Sudanese political analyst and researcher at the Sudanese Center for Strategic Studies, said that Sudan has changed its stance because its old one no longer achieves its interest. Sudan would benefit from being a partner in managing the Jerd and preventing the opening of the dam's gate, which could lead to floods, he said. However, Ethiopia refuses such partnership, according to Mahmoud. Lately, the Jerd issue overlapped with the border disputes between Ethiopia and Sudan in light of the aggression of Ethiopian militias on the Sudanese Al-Fashaq area, the civil war in the Tigray region. He also warned that opening the gates of the dam without an agreement with Sudan will put pressure on the Sudanese dams and could lead to their collapse, which will drown Sudanese cities overlapping the Nile, in addition to damaging the Sudanese farms by flooding them. This is where we end today's episode on African News. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment anywhere on all your social media handles. Make sure you hit the notification button so you'll be notified anytime we make a post. Thanks. Watching.